John is a high-performing manager who struggles with this hidden enemy called all or nothing thinking. Can leaders like John really learn to embrace the gray areas and transform their relationships? Of course they can, and in this video, I'm revealing the secrets on how. Let's dive in. Hey, I'm Kelsey Taylor with the Working Enneagram, and I'm here to talk to you about how to let go of this black and white and this all or nothing thinking. If you're not familiar with black and white thinking, it's a cognitive distortion that leads us to see the world in absolute extremes. We either see things as good or bad, right or wrong, and there's no middle ground. And this type of thinking can be very limiting. It makes it difficult to make decisions, solve problems, and build really good relationships. I do want to talk about which Enneagram types are prone to this black and white thinking. And I think it's important to note that all Enneagram types will experience black and white thinking from time to time. But 1s, 3s, and 8s are particularly susceptible to black and white thinking because they tend to find security in neatly putting things into a box. But what do you do when there's something that doesn't neatly fit into a box? Well, you have to lean into the gray, and 1s, 3s, and 8s are not accustomed to that. Let's talk about why. For type 1s, these are the perfectionists, and they have high standards for themselves and for other people. A black and white mindset really helps them define what is good and what is bad. And this internal set of rules gives them the ability to maintain their high standards. If they know what's good, they know how to reach it. For type 3s, these are competitive types and they are driven to succeed. And seeing the world through a black and white lens helps them know what tasks are worth their effort and what tasks are not. So they double down on the things that will get results, which helps them stay focused on their goals and avoid failure. For the type 8s, these are assertive types and they're very decisive. So taking a black and white approach helps them discern weakness from strength, which in turn allows them to maintain control through their strength and avoid feeling vulnerable at all costs. Let me tell you a story about John. John's an Enneagram 1, and he's a manager at a software company. He is a hard worker, and he's very good at his job. But John has one big problem. He is stuck in this black or white thinking. John sees the world as good or bad, right or wrong, and there is no middle ground for him. And this type of thinking makes it difficult for John to maintain healthy work relationships or to be flexible when it comes to problem solving. For example, John has a team of engineers who are working on a new product, and one of the engineers, Sarah, comes to John with a problem. She's having trouble with one of the features. John listens to Sarah's problem, but he doesn't really try to understand or see her perspective. He's already made up his mind. Sarah is totally incompetent. So John tells Sarah she needs to figure out the problem on her own. He doesn't offer to help her, and he certainly doesn't give her any guidance, which leaves Sarah feeling frustrated and discouraged. She feels like she doesn't quite have the support that she needs in order to succeed. John's black and white thinking is not just causing problems at work, but it's also causing problems in his personal life. He's in a relationship with a woman named Mary, but they are constantly fighting. One day, John and Mary are having a well-revisited argument about money. John wants to save for retirement, but Mary wants to spend the money on having fun, planning a date night, going on vacation. So John tells Mary that she's irresponsible and that she doesn't think about the future. And then Mary tells John that he's rigid and boring and he doesn't know how to enjoy life. So John and Mary, their argument escalates and eventually they break up. I can't help but wonder what could have happened if John would change his thinking, even if John would be open to changing his thinking. I think his life would be much better. I think he would be able to make better decisions, solve problems more effectively, and I know he would be able to build deeper and stronger relationships. If John had taken the time to understand Sarah's perspective and to offer her help, she would have felt more valued and supported, and she would have also been more likely to succeed in her work. Everybody wins. And if you resonate with John in this story, well, you might be a fellow black and white thinker. But don't worry, as a recovering black and white thinker myself, I promise you, there is hope. If you still aren't sure if you're a black and white thinker or not, here are some other signs that can help you decide. First, if you use a lot of all or nothing language, such as always, never, perfect, or terrible, that's a pretty good indicator. Examples would be like, gosh, she's always late for meetings, or he's never going to get this, or I need this to be perfect. The second indicator would be that you have difficulty seeing the middle ground, and you tend to see things as either good or bad, right or wrong, and there's no room for compromise in between. The third indicator would be that you're often critical of yourself or others. The fourth would be if you have difficulty making decisions because you're always worried about making the wrong choice. The fifth indicator would be that you have difficulty coping with uncertainty because you just like to know exactly what is going to happen. And then finally, the sixth indicator that you're a black or white or all or nothing thinker is that you have difficulty resolving conflict because you're not quite able to see things from the other person's perspective. If you're not familiar with saying things like, I can see where you're coming from, or that makes sense, or I'm sorry, you may be a black and white thinker. And if you are a middle manager or a small business leader who struggles with black and white thinking, I'd love for you to consider signing up for our Core Motivations Enneagram Team Workshop. This workshop helps you understand yourself and your team members better, which leads to more effective communication, better collaboration, and ultimately a thriving team environment. Click the link in the description below to learn a little bit more. I do want to say that black and white thinking does not make you a bad person. It simply means that you have a tendency to think in extremes. And it's a common cognitive distortion that can be overcome. Here are 4 tips for overcoming black and white thinking. First, I want you to challenge your thoughts. When you catch yourself thinking in black and white, ask yourself, is there any evidence to support your claim? Are there any other ways to look at the situation? So let's play this out with John and Sarah's situation. Challenging John's thoughts may sound something like this. Is Sarah actually incompetent? Has she consistently fallen short of her work performance? And then another way to look at the situation or a different perspective might go something like this. Am I, aka John, am I pressed for time and feeling burdened by Sarah's request for help? Do I not know how to help Sarah and as a result feel incompetent? The second tip is to embrace the gray. Most situations are not as simple as black and white. There's usually a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different nuances to consider. So try to see things from multiple angles. If John and Sarah are sitting across from each other at the table, John may see the number 6, while Sarah sees the number 9. And guess what? Both of them are correct. They just have a different perspective. Number 3, be open to new information. Be willing to listen to other people's perspectives and consider new information. And this helps you see the world in a more complex and a more nuanced way. The fourth and final tip for overcoming black and white thinking is to practice self-compassion. It's important to be patient with yourself as you work on letting go of this black and white thinking because everybody slips up from time to time. The important thing is to learn from your mistakes and to keep trying. If you found these tips helpful, consider subscribing to this channel to stay on top of the latest strategies and insights on leading effectively and navigating personality differences. We'll continue to do our best to bring you valuable content just like this to help you build strong and successful teams. That's the best I have for you today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.